Well, welcome back to Life's Journey. I'm Dr. Ralph Smith. As you know, if you followed this show from its beginnings, and we're actually celebrating an anniversary with these shows that we're doing today of 5 years of broadcasting on Papa. So we're adding more cable systems as we speak, and we'll keep you posted on that and let you know what's going on. We want to send a special welcome out to Thurston Community Media. We've had a great opportunity to sit down with those fine folks. And of course, they're associated with Comcast. And we now are being aired on Sundays from 12:30 to 1:30. At 12:30, you have Life's Journey. And then, of course, at 1 o'clock, you have Positively Port Angeles with Sherry Kidd. So that's our permanent spots we have there. And then Eric's been kind enough here at Papa to give us the slots on Friday. It's kind of ruined my dating life, but of course, I'm married. I shouldn't be talking about that anyway. But anyway, we are on Fridays on the Papa system, which is channel 120 here in the Wave Broadcasting, starting off at 6 o'clock. Excuse me, that's wrong. No, it is 6 o'clock. I apologize for that. 6 o'clock on Fridays, 6:30 is Positively Port Angeles. I was shaking my head on that one because we've changed it a few times. So once again, on the Papa system, you can just go ahead on Wave Broadband and throughout Port Angeles and all of Kellam County, tune in on Fridays at 6 o'clock, and then you'll see Life's Journey, and at 6:30 you'll see Positively Port Angeles. And we sure appreciate Eric doing that for us. There'll be replays throughout the week, but at least those particular times you can count on it, and hopefully you'll enjoy the show. Well, as we move into our 5th season operation, we call it Season 3 because those are the actual broadcasts the way we lay them out. So this is Season 3 for us now. And this would be the 3rd episode. And this 3rd episode is pretty important to me, actually. As a practicing psychologist, even though I'm supposed to be retired, relationships with couples, especially after COVID hit, the stress levels among couples, either committed partners or married partners, has been tremendous. And then you throw in the element of the kids. You throw in the element that the kids are generally not going to school, even though that's starting to improve now as everybody gets their shots. The bottom line is it's been a very stressful year and a half. So we are talking about couples relationships. And the main thing I talk about is maintaining a couple's courtships. As I have talked throughout the 30 some odd years I've practiced, a common complaint that I hear from both the male side of the ledger and the female side of the ledger, and quite frankly, even in our couples that we work with that have an alternate lifestyle, is they get a feeling that after a certain period of time that their partner takes them for granted. You know, you don't see the door being opened in some cases. You don't see the date nights still happening on every week, and you don't have your monthly go-aways, which we've talked about before. It just kind of drops into a system that you're there. And that's not good, because part of the reason why people drift away in relationships and couples relationships is either they don't feel like they're appreciated, they feel like they're taken for granted, or there's financial issues, which of course is the number one issue. And I won't even get into substance abuse. So what I want to talk about in this particular show, and hopefully you'll pick up some good information from it, is talking about maintaining a couple's relationship, but think about it as courtship. Now again, I'm not pushing marriage one way or the other. That's an individual decision to be made. But for partnerships to work, each party of the partnership needs to get something out of it. If it's all on one side, sooner or later the other partner will say, well, what am I going through all this for? And in the sessions that I conduct with my patients, this comes up all the time. So I'm going to give you some key points to look at in this show, and hopefully you'll use them and hopefully better your life. First of all, you've got to define what the true meaning of love. A lot of times love is sexual attraction, and I don't know whether that's good or bad. As an old guy, I guess that's good. I don't know. But the bottom line is that the sexual attraction part is not going to be enough to carry your relationship through. No matter how great a quality your intimacy may be, or how often you have intimacy, the bottom line is there's got to be more to the relationship than that. And so one of the things that you have to do is maintain your courtship approach, that when you wanted to get that fellow, that gal into your life on a permanent basis, that you keep practicing that. Keep practicing those skills. So here's some of the things that you need to do. First of all, level 1 is getting to know each other. A lot of times people, if you put the intimacy off to the side, they don't answer the question about being compatible. Now, it was easy for me. I fell in love with my high school sweetheart, and we've been together for 50 years as of June 20th of this year of 2021, and we've married 48 of those years. So when you fall together in love and you have what they refer to as puppy love, and you go to the proms and you go to the football games and the baseball games, it's a natural relationship to get close. And to get her to wear that Letterman jacket, for most guys that was a big deal. But after that's done and you get married, it is so important to define the true meaning of love for each one of you, the partners. It varies by partners. I didn't write a book about this. I wrote a book about not living life in the rearview mirror. But love is a very personal and, in a sense, an ideal situation that partners need to discuss. And it's a simple discussion to have. It's a discussion of saying, what are the things that you do that just drive me nuts? What are the things that you do that I really enjoy? And you can save yourself $200 or $300 an hour psychologist, wink, wink, to be able to ask those questions. Get those things down and make it part of your life plan. And again, you can go to our website, Jenny Marie, just jennymwellness.com, and you can talk. It talks about life plans under life journeys. So that's the first level. You got to make sure, and it's not just an issue of being compatible. It's an issue of having common needs, common desires, because that's what gives relationships longevity. Now, if you're one of these type of people that go through relationships every 1 or 2 years, maybe it's not important to you. But at a certain time, you're going to want to settle down. And especially if you're considering adding children to the relationship, whether that be basic bio dad and mom and creating children, or if it's a blended family where you bring children from previous relationships. Either way, when you bring children into the relationships, the longevity, the respect, the support is critical. So that's one of the things you do once you get to know each other and make sure that this is that special person that you want. The second thing, and this is, I look down only because it's so hard to explain in such a short television show, but I'll just give you the highlights. Creating a pathway. And by creating a pathway, what I'm talking about is you look at what you're doing in your life. You have the children in there perhaps. You've got to raise children. You've got to deal with their friends. You've got family members to deal with on both sides of the equation. You have a career path that you've got to focus on your career path, because if you don't focus on your career path, then you're going to have financial issues. And if you have financial issues, that could threaten a relationship. Again, the number one reason why relationships fail is a lack of solid financial resources. So if you want to create a pathway, this is how you do it. First of all, you need to go ahead and develop a family/couples life plan that carries out for the upcoming calendar year, covers the next year, and stop there. If you go beyond that 1.5 or 2 year plan, it's unfair to expect that your expectations that you have back 2 years ago will be the same in going to year 3. So put together a life plan that has basically the finishing the calendar year whenever you start it, and then 1 more year after that. It's easier to base it on the calendar year because of the fact that we all flip our calendars and you don't get caught in that trap of resolutions, okay? Second thing that's part of the life plan path, plan out your career. One of the things that I come across a lot in my private practice, especially on the female side of the ledger, is they feel like their men are not home. Their men are preoccupied in other things. That even though they work hard, and in this particular case, if you have a one-income family, they're producing the income to support the family, they just feel neglected. They feel lonely. They feel like the only role they have is to clean the house and raise the kids. And by the way, that goes both ways. In our society today, we have a lot of women that have very successful careers. And they sit down and compare notes, and they decide, well, maybe it's better if I go forward with my career instead of waiting for the male side to go with the career. And then for our alternate lifestyles, it's the same conversation. It has nothing to do with your sexual identity. So make sure you map out the impact of careers. The next part of that pathway is to carefully lay out, and I mean this carefully lay out, your family council meetings. I generally find that family council meetings are good to have on Mondays each week because it's the start of the week. You can set goals that need to be met, And then more importantly even than that is you set together the weekend of being free so that you can go out and plan a weekend getaway as a date. You need to have dates, and most people will pick either Friday or Saturday night. I know you have child care concerns to look at, but the bottom line is you got to do your date. And then the other part of that pathway is to make sure that you go away as a couple once a month. You know, it doesn't have to be expensive. I mean, I'm well aware of the fact that a lot of people are up against it financially. I'm well aware of the fact that some of these hotels and motels, the way they're booked now and the shortage of staffs, there are a lot of reasons you could give yourself for not doing the getaway. But how about this getaway? We are blessed in the fact that we live in the Pacific Northwest, here where our headquarters is at in Port Angeles, Washington. And to get in the car and go for a 2 or 3 hour drive, you see scenery that people would need their whole lifetime to see. So if you decide to keep it rather inexpensive, jump in the car, make sure it's full of gas, pack some treats and drinks with you, and then line up a motel that you can stay overnight. Because if you have a wonderful day, and it's not meant on that once a month getaway as a forum to have arguments or fights or heavy duty discussions. We'll save that for the master bedroom when the kids are asleep. What I'm talking about is just pretend for a moment that you two folks are in courtship and you want to prove to each other that this relationship has what we call in the business legs to last. So take one time a month, usually a weekend if your work schedule permits it, maybe in the middle of the week, but whatever the case may be, get that set and established. Okay? That's real important. The other part of creating a pathway for success, and it's really important, is to sit down when you have these family council meetings and not only talk about the chores and the duties and what each person is supposed to do, but is to talk about vacations. You know, I realize that with a lot of us being stuck in homes and not being able to go out for fear that we might catch COVID and all this, that's really interrupted that part of the life. But if you're that worried about it, and if you're not vaccinated especially, you should wear your mask at all times. But even if you have got your shots, and as I refer to be having Teflon, don't use the mask as an excuse not to go. You know, I'm not going to do a whole show on the do's and don'ts for COVID. We'll save that for some other time. But the fact of the matter is, having that time together alone, being able to talk about things, talk about how much you love each other, and not have to worry about the kids, get some good child care to take care of them. Those moments are going to cause you to refresh your relationship. And some ways we can put it, it's not only a matter of refreshing your relationship, it's to energize your relationship. So that you come back from that trip and you might be tired, especially if you had an exciting evening, but you're going to be really excited to the point that you're going to want to talk about your next trip. So make a point in either planning those monthly getaways and or vacations where you involve the family, and go ahead and do that. Make it part of your life, like you're going to pay your mortgage or pay your rent or your utilities. It's that important. Get a planner, put it on the refrigerator, or put it in your phones like most of you younger folks do, blocking that time out and listing that for sure, and making sure indeed you've got that done. And then finally on this subject, which is so important, take turns on these monthly getaways so that when you do these monthly getaways or you do the dates or whatever, that you will alternate each one with each partner having the responsibility of planning it and managing it. And by the way, when you get into vacations, and I won't give you any Disneyland jokes here, but when you get into vacations especially, get the kids' input, because I want you to bring the kids on vacation. I want you to enjoy, your friendship and your parenthood with these kids, and I want them to see you in an environment where you're having fun too. So it's so important, just so important, that on vacation the kids have input. And I know you're going to say, well, Doc, if my kid's only a year and a half old, it's not just about the age, it's about them having input, them being involved with it, and more importantly, looking forward to it. Okay, that's the pathway. We're going to take us a short break right now, and when we return, we're going to talk more about life commitments. What exactly does that term mean? Thank you for watching Life Journeys, and we'll be right back. welcome back from that short break. I hope you enjoy the wonderful scenery that Sean, our executive producer and vice president of media, had put together. This area out here is gorgeous. And Positively Port Angeles is our show that we primarily use to promote the area around Port Angeles and the beautiful scenery we have. And of course, we can't hardly wait for the MV Coho to start running across the strait so we can visit our friends and family members that are up in beautiful Victoria, Canada, and of course, Vancouver Island. Rumor has it it's supposed to be August 9th of 2021, but I'll believe it when I hear that horn go off in that Coho and see it heading toward Canada. And I plan to be on there for sure. All right, back to our discussion about couples courtships. It is so critical to the two areas, and again, just to recap, understanding the true meaning of love, getting to know each other very well and making sure you're compatible, and then creating a pathway for your relationship for the future and for the success, and to continue that love so that you don't grow out of love or grow bored with your love life and seek, that type of attention outside the relationship. That has nothing but disaster written all over it. So that recaps the first half of what we did. The second half of this, we're talking about life commitments. Life commitments is nothing sexy, it's nothing exciting. In fact, it could even be considered boring as hell. It's a lot like people who run businesses. They have a business plan. And the business plan is mostly directed toward the financial results of what is budgeted for expenses, what's budgeted for income, and then hopefully creating a profit at the end of the year so all the stockholders are happy. And in the case of my company, that would be employees or executives that own stock of the company that I gave them so that they're owners of this company. It gives them, I think, a bigger responsibility and certainly a greater purpose in making sure the company is successful. But what I'm talking about in those same business plans, I've written a lot of them in my corporate life, is that we would always list our objectives of what did we want to accomplish in the coming year, when are we going to accomplish it? So in other words, we'd gear it to first quarter, second quarter, whatever, third quarter of the year. But we would have accountability in having the goal or objective, when we're going to get it started, and then of course the third piece is the impact it will have on the bottom line. That's business, and this isn't a business show. But folks, the relationship part is the same way. You really need to sit down and run your life with a family budget. And if you have a variable income, we call it, which another way to call it is a commission income, where you really don't have the numbers on hard sell numbers that you can say, okay, I'm going to make this much money and that's it. Your job's a little bit more difficult, but get yourself a financial budget and figure yourself in excess in whatever the income's going to be coming in. And it's not, to me, it's not the number that's important. It's the process. That you go ahead and have a 20% flex factor. Now the 20% flex factor, that means if for some reason you don't get all the hours you're supposed to get, or you lose a key client and your commission's not big, or whatever the case might be. But have a 20% cushion there. Also, your expenses will go higher. There's certain seasonal aspects. We're broadcasted all over the United States and Canada. So each area has different, what we call climate requirements of either keeping a home well heated or keeping it air conditioned, especially our friends down in southwest the United States. So that cushion is very valuable. And think of your finances like a foundation of a house. If you build good finances and good projections and you're held accountable, you have a solid foundation in your relationship. Same thing like a house. You can build one of the most beautiful houses around, and if you have a lousy foundation or it starts cracking on you, the whole house will come down. So think of it that way. Second thing, life commitments. You need to realize that as much as you may be idealistic when you're in your teens, like Linda and I were, or your 20s or your 30s, and a lot of people are delaying committed relationships till they're in their 40s. You've got to be realistic in the fact that people change. And I talk about this quite often in my seminars, and I'll mention it briefly here. When you're a partner with someone, you love them, you care for them, you worry about them, you get their partnership, especially if children are involved. But the one thing you should never give up is your self-identity. It's not part of a relationship to convert your significant partner into thinking and acting the way you do. That's not the purpose. The purpose is for each person to have a strong self-identity, and they should not have to give that up in order for the relationship to succeed. But what it means is that if you have a self-identity, and listen to this carefully, if you have self-identity, then you need to respect your partner's views and respect the fact of why they feel a certain way. Because most people function on perception, not necessarily reality. Now, when I say respect, let me be very clear about defining that. It doesn't mean that your partner, you have to agree on things. Boy, wouldn't that be wonderful? It means that you listen, you take notes, you share views, and when it's all said and done, you respect whatever decision's made, and hopefully it'll be a decision that you folks do together. Those are the greatest decisions you can make. So try to implement the respect part and planning out your relationship to be able to have your life commitment. And then the other part, and I know that people don't think about this when they're in their 20s and 30s, but what are you going to do when you get old? I'm almost 68 years old. And when you talk about the golden triangle of life, and it's not the circle, the triangle of life, of having your education, meeting your special someone, and then the final part of that triangle is having a successful relationship and watching those children raise and become successful too, because those children are your legacy, if you choose to have children involved. But what about that golden circle or that golden triangle of retirement? People are living a lot longer today. The average age for an American male is 74 years of age, and for a female it's 78 years. Now, COVID has affected that somewhat, obviously, but as a general rule of thumb, that's what we're looking at. So the thing you have to look at this, is realize when your income is pretty well diminished, if you're going to try to live on Social Security, boy, assuming it's going to still be there, that's not a very good plan to have. You need to have supplemental income. If you think that you're going to work through your retirement, that's not a good plan either, because what you have to do if you work retirement, part-time, because your significant other will probably need you more than ever because of health concerns. And believe me, I speak from experience regarding health concerns and how all of a sudden they can pop up, and you're laying in that bed and you're looking at that ceiling in the hospital and you're saying, what if I can't recover from this? Or what am I going to do when I get home? So these are the things you got to talk about. And when you talk about those things with your significant other, you're also sending a clear message to that person that you're looking at this relationship going 20, 30, 40, and hopefully 50 years. And it might seem far-fetched to you, but believe me, those years flip by very quickly. So enlisting that out and making sure that's part of your planning process, it'll be very, very good for you and the future of your relationship. The other thing that's very important is maintaining roles. People say, well, I grew out of love, or I've fallen out of love, or he's never here, or she's never here, and they blame the job, they blame the career, they blame everybody but themselves. So it's very important that you adjust your life goals and objectives as partners as you age, as the kids are basically funneled through and they go through their elementary days, they go into high school, they get into their colleges and universities, and before you know it, they're creating kids for you so you can be papa or mama, okay? It just sneaks up on you, trust me on this. So you have to be sure that you're looking at the big picture. Now, assuming God willing, you can live with someone and for 50 years, and you can enjoy those 50 years, and you look at your legacy in the form of your children, the Lord's good to you if you can do that. My mom and dad almost made 50 years, and Mom passed away from Parkinson's. And she's been gone for 20 some odd years. Our clinic is named after her. But they almost made 50 years. That was a big deal. And surprisingly enough, after she passed, she left a card for my dad, and my dad's now gone also, of thanking him for those 50 years and how much she loved him. And he found that card on their anniversary, which was on June 3rd of each year. Life is short, and nothing is guaranteed. But by making those kind of commitments, by making your partner an active partner in it, so it's not a domineering position where one partner makes all the decision and the other is submissive. No, 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 no. In this type of plan, each partner is equal, both in voice and influence, to make sure life commitments work the way they should. So that's an important piece, And that's why I'm spending so much time talking about it. Now, the final piece of this in maintaining a couple's courtships, and it actually starts from the day you first get started to the day that the Lord takes you upstairs, okay? Preferably on the express, is maintaining the excitement. How do you maintain excitement in a relationship? As you age, the demands it has on your body and the effects it can have on your intimacy, no matter what the TV commercials say, they're huge. And if you base your relationship solely on intimacy, you're going to really face some hard times as you get older. Not that there's not intimacy, it's just in a different form. And that's another show. So what I'm trying to say is to maintain the excitement is to go ahead and do the things like if you bring flowers home. Valentine's Day is a commercial holiday, but you could surprise your significant other by flowers and candy or taking that significant other to their favorite restaurant. Whatever it is that pleases them and makes them feel special. That's what we're talking about in maintaining the excitement. Making sure that your children see that excitement as they grow up. Because basically, you role model for your children. If you raise them in a family that's full of despair and division, chances are that when they grow up and they find their partner, it'll repeat again and again and again. So what you want to see is a good working unit where you can role model for these children for the very brief time that you have them, which could be as little as when they hit 17, 18, or perhaps as much as when they graduate from their college or university, if that's their path, which could be 21 or 22. Or in the case of our children, they never do leave. They're still always around. They might live in a physical place different, but there's always that phone call and say, hey, Dad, what would you think if? And at that point, you drop everything you're doing, and you try to give them the very best advice you can. And we have 3 kids, 5 grandkids, and 2 great-grandkids. I know it's hard to believe looking at me that I could be old enough to have a great-grandkids, but I do. The excitement is truly measured in one sentence: your expectations of life. Now, a lot of people take pleasure out of their careers. A lot of people take pleasure out of their financial worth, that they drive these fancy cars, they change their homes out, they live in a better neighborhood. Those are all measures that people can use perhaps to judge their success. But to have excitement is a balance of all those things. As I said earlier in this broadcast, and it's so important to do, is make sure you're around. Make sure you're there to enjoy each other and that you're truly partners in whatever the endeavor might be. So in summary, what I'm saying to you is, if you want happiness and you want to have a good long life of having a partner you can count on, make it as big a priority as you did choosing your career in life. Because making money can always be made. Making a loving relationship, it takes a lot of work. Thank you for tuning in to Life's Journey. It's sure great that you guys have joined us. And stay tuned to us because we're constantly bringing up new subjects that are hopefully useful to you. Follow the closing credits because it lists the Jenny Marie Wellness Centers, which we own, and our different phone numbers based on if you're in Idaho or you're in Washington. We practice in both states. And if you're in Oregon, you can pick either one of the numbers. So take care of one another. God bless and stay healthy. We'll be back to you soon.